here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello, I am Sami Mohammed with the news. Senior law enforcement leaders and ministers from 179 countries have convened in Morocco for Interpol's General Assembly, a four-day gathering aimed at tackling current and emerging threats posed by transnational organized crime. More than 800 delegates, including 82 police chiefs, are attending the annual meeting, which runs from 24 to 27 November and serves as Interpol's highest decision-making body, setting global policing priorities. Morocco's Director General of National Security and Territorial Surveillance, Abdulatif Hamouchi, said hosting the assembly reflects the country's strong commitment to international security cooperation. Security challenges transcend national borders, Hamouchi said, stressing the need for joint and indivisible security structures to combat increasingly sophisticated criminal networks. This year's agenda focuses on identifying and dismantling transnational crime groups, including global scams centers, and strengthening cooperative mechanisms across borders. Interpol President Ahmed Nasser Al-Raisi emphasized that the Marrakech gathering marks a new phase in global policing collaboration. The next phase of our journey starts here, he said, citing a 5-year roadmap designed to guide the organization's transformation. In every border crossed and every life protected, Interpol thrives in all of us. The conference is expected to reinforce international strategies to counter organized crime, cyber threats, and global fraud schemes. Council approved €59.5 million in military aid on Monday for the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Chad and Jordan under the European Peace Facility, aiming to boost defense capabilities and regional security. The Council adopted a €10 million assistance measure to provide the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of the Congo with military equipment, marking its second measure in support of the force, bringing the total EPF assistance to €30 million, a Council statement said. It said the assistance will strengthen the FARDC's ability to protect civilians and restore state authority by providing non-lethal equipment to support command and control, improve deployment and medical operations, and enable river border surveillance patrols, with deliveries expected before the end of 2026. According to the Council, €14.5 million in assistance will support the armed forces of Chad, marking the EU's first bilateral EPF support to the country, which already receives EU backing through the multinational task force against Boko Haram and the G5 Sahel Joint Force. Under EPF support, the EU will help professionalize the ANT by upgrading the Kundul Academy for non-commissioned officers, supplying educational equipment and revising its curriculum in response to Chad's request. The Council also approved €35 million in EPF aid to strengthen the Jordanian armed forces, bringing the total EU support for Jordan under the facility of €55.25 million. Morocco signed this weekend a major investment agreement in Tantan to establish a new industrial unit for the production of polysilicon, a key material for solar panels. The project, with a planned investment of MAD 8 billion, is expected to create 1,500 direct jobs and more than 2,000 indirect jobs. The plant will have an annual production capacity of 30,000 tons, 85% of which will be exported to international markets. The agreement was signed by Karim Zidane, Morocco's Delegate Minister for Investment and Policy Evaluation, and Philip Jenkins, CEO of the American company GPM Holdings. Classified as strategic project by Morocco's National Investment Committee in February 2024, the polysilicon plant aligns with the country's national strategy for renewable energy. It aims to strengthen industrial value chains related to solar energy, particularly the manufacturing of solar panel components, and position Morocco as a key player in the global energy transition. Alongside the investment agreement, officials signed a cooperation protocol between the ministry, the region of Gulemim Oud Nan, the Tantan province, and the GPM holding. The agreement focuses on local support for the project, boosting economic integration, developing a regional industrial ecosystem, and training young talents in coordination with educational and specialized institutions. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Ethiopia and Singapore are poised to build a strong Asia-Africa bridge for sustainable growth and shared prosperity as he and Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong held a joint press briefing in Addis Ababa. Abiy praised Wong for honoring his commitment to visit Ethiopia, saying the gesture reinforces trust and underscores both nations' readiness to deepen ties. He highlighted Africa's human capital, clean energy potential, and investment-ready environment, adding that Ethiopia views Singapore as a strategic partner whose governance and innovation experience offer valuable lessons.
As I have said several times, I think this is the right time for every developed nation to turn their face to Africa. Because without bringing the potentials that we have from both sides, there is no way that we can fulfill the demand which is arising from our people. The problem is there in this part of the world. There are also different problems in your part of the world. There is no problem-free world in today's geo and political economic landscape. We knew that developed nations have capital resources and skilled human capital, and this is a missing element in Africa, but there are lots of things that Africa also can offer. We're not begging like yesterday. We're saying, we have a lot to offer. We have human capital, we have land, we have fresh water, we have huge potential for clean energy. We have good policies. We're investment ready as a continent. So it's good to combine those potentials to the betterment of our citizenries.
The two leaders reaffirmed shared priorities in trade, investment, logistics, manufacturing, aviation, and tourism. Abiy invited Singaporean investors to explore opportunities in industrial parks, agro-processing, mining, and urban development, and noted Ethiopia's interest in cooperation on smart mobility, logistics, technology, digital public infrastructure, and skills development under a newly signed MOU. Abiy also said Ethiopia hopes to draw from Singapore's expertise in green urban planning and city development to support coordinated, practical outcomes.
Singapore's remarkable journey and global reputation for innovation and good governance offers lessons we deeply value. There are plenty of areas that we can cooperate. We can also learn from Singapore. Ethiopia is advancing resilient institutions, digital governance, and inclusive prosperity, and we see Singapore as a strategic partner in this effort. We've been there. Most of my leadership visited your beautiful country. Everyone was impressed, also inspired big time. We want to build on that positive spirit.
Prime Minister Wong thanked Abiy for a warm welcome and said his visit, his first bilateral trip to Africa as Premier, aims to renew and elevate long-standing ties. He emphasized the relationship as a partnership of equal, focused on mutual benefit. Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong unveiled the new Saplings package, which will provide African officials with study visits, executive training, and scholarship in Singapore, and described Ethiopia as a key partner for boosting connectivity between Southeast Asia and Africa.
Last year, the Prime Minister visited Singapore to celebrate 55 years of diplomatic ties between our two countries. He invited me to visit Ethiopia, and so I'm very happy to be able to reciprocate his visit now. On my first official visit to Ethiopia, but also, in fact, my first bilateral visit to the African continent, and it's here in Ethiopia. Prime Minister Abiy said just now that Ethiopia is stepping up its engagements with developed countries to match Ethiopia's needs and demands with the resources and capabilities of developed countries. To be clear, Singapore is not a developed country. We see ourselves as a tiny little island, always vulnerable, exposed to so many external challenges and always trying to keep ahead. On the other hand, we see Ethiopia as an ancient civilization with a long and proud history, a diverse people, and tremendous potential to do much more going forward. So this is not about us teaching Ethiopia at all or offering lessons. It's a partnership of equals. It's a partnership of us working together closely for win-win partnership.
Wong said Singapore sees Ethiopia as a critical partner and believes the two countries can help catalyze greater flows between Southeast Asia and Africa. Now to business news. Angolan President João Lourenço, current chair of the African Union, on Monday called for a fairer debt restructuring tools and innovative financing instruments to support Africa's development. Lourenço's comments delivered to African and European Union leaders assembled in Angola's capital come as growing number of African countries are at risk of debt distress. The group of 20's common framework set up during the COVID pandemic to speed up debt restructuring for poorer nations has made limited progress through last weekend's G20 summit in South Africa committed to improving it. We are in dire need of a new vision for financial relationship between Africa and international lending institutions so that we can invest in development without being stifled by unsustainable debt, Lourenço told the first day of an EU-AU summit. On behalf of all Africa, I reiterate the urgency of working toward comprehensive reform of the global financial system, including fairer debt restructuring mechanisms, Lourenço added. A panel of Africa experts set up by South Africa during its G20 presidency this year recommended a new debt refinancing plan for low-income countries hit by heavy debt repayments, rather than the current focus on rescheduling payments. The EU chair added that the strengthened EU cooperation backed by pragmatic financing mechanisms is crucial for peace, prosperity, and long-term stability across both continents. G20's Common Framework initiative saw early test cases such as Ghana and Zambia take years to make progress. Nigeria's oil seed company NNPC Limited announced on Monday that it had recorded a net income of $3.6 billion for 2024. This is up 64% compared to the previous year. Analysts were told by Group Chief Executive Bashir Ojulari that the earnings demonstrate the positive momentum in our ongoing transformation and the unwavering dedication of our workforce. Ojulari stated that the NNPC aims to mobilize $60 billion in energy investment by 2030. The company will also increase oil production to 2 million barrels oil per day and to 3 million barrels of oil per day by 2030. Gas production is expected to reach 12 billion cubic feet a day by the end of decade. Nigeria has been struggling to meet its OPEC plus quota due to theft, vandalism of pipelines, and underinvestment in recent years. OPEC data shows that Nigeria's output in 2024 was below the 1.8 million BPD goal, averaging about 1.5 million barrels of oil per day. Analysts believe that achieving NNPC targets will require tackling the security challenges as well as attracting foreign capital. NNPC is profitable since 2020 when it boosted its very first profits. Moving to sports news. Kenya and Uganda have qualified for the semi-final stage at the ongoing Total Energies CAF U17 Africa Cup of Nationals CE CAFA qualifiers. The Kenyan team advanced to the knockout stage after beating South Sudan to 2-0 in a Group A match played at the Ababa Stadium on Monday. Derek Wanyonzi gave Kenya the lead after 12 minutes, while Trevor Nasirio put the icing on the cake 1 minute to full time. The South Sudan team, led by skipper Panom Joe and substitute Michael Wani, created some decent scoring opportunities but failed to take them. The win sent Kenya to 7 points ahead of their last match against hostess Ethiopia on Wednesday to decide who tops Ground A. At the Diredawa Stadium, Group B table leaders Tanzania silenced Burundi 5-0 with Saddam Hamis netting a hit trick. The four last group matches will be played on Wednesday. Hostess Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda are the four teams that have already qualified for the semi-final stage to be played on November 30. The playoff for third place and the final are slotted for December 2nd. Next, let's check the current weather forecast. Thanks for joining us on Pulse of Africa News. Keep following us for more stories that matter across the continent.
The Africa we want.
Hello and welcome, viewers. The Africa we want begins in our classrooms. Across the continent, the dream of Agenda 2063, a prosperous, united and innovative Africa, depends on one foundation: education. With 1.4 billion people and nearly two-thirds under the age of 25, Africa holds the youngest population in the world. Yet, according to the United Nations, more than 98 million African children are still out of school, while only 20% of schools have access to the internet. As the world advances through artificial intelligence and digital transformation, Africa's young minds cannot afford to be left behind, because education is not just one of the goals in Agenda 2063. It is the engine that will drive every goal. It is how Africa will innovate, compete, and claim its place as a global powerhouse. Today, we ask the defining question of our generation: will we invest in education to build the African we want?
Africa's dream of emerging as a true global powerhouse will remain just that, a dream, unless the continent makes a bold and sustainable investment in education. This is the rallying cry echoing across classrooms, policy tables, and leadership forums as educators and experts call for education to be placed firmly at the center of Africa's development agenda. In an inclusive discussion with Pulse of Africa, education leaders, union representatives, and policy experts painted a sobering picture of challenges facing Africa's education sector and the immense opportunity that lies ahead if governments take decisive action. Education is not taken as the pillar it should be, said Goroda Bagopi, Vice President for Gender and Women's Rights at the Botswana Teachers Union. Funding is very minimal, yet the future of our generation depends on quality education. Without proper classrooms and facilities, we cannot transform our future. Bagopi's words echo a deep truth. Education is the backbone of every successful nation. Yet across Africa, millions of children still learn under trees, in overcrowded rooms, or in unsafe conditions. Teachers, the heartbeat of education, are often underpaid, undertrained, and undervalued.
The state of education in Botswana is very pathetic because We still have some great challenges of funding. Education is not taken as the pillar. The funding part of it is very minimal. So I believe that the government has to up their games and fund education to transform the future of the coming generation, because the future of the generation is based in education. Not only education, but the quality one. And we can have quality assurance when the huge amount of funding is diverted to education. We still experience some dilapidated classrooms. We still experiencing where there's some areas whereby there are no classrooms at all. We are still having some places whereby a canvas is used as classroom, which is not conducive for the 21st century learning. In terms of the STEM or the internet, the technology achievement, I believe we are still left behind. As the revolution is changing, I believe it's very important for us to up our game as Botswana to match the standard, so that we can also revolutionize education and join the technology transformation as per the 21st century requirements. So I believe the main pillar of life should be funding education.
This call for investment goes beyond local policy. It is a part of a global movement to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, ensuring inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all by 2030. But time is running out. Experts warn that if urgent steps are not taken, Africa risks falling far short of this global commitment. At the same time, Africa's own blueprint for progress, the African Union's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, recognizes education as a foundation for economic growth, innovation, and continental unity. Africa can solve its own problems. We have African governments, African experts, and African teachers. We must bring them together, emphasizes Dr. Young Perio, Director of Parliament at the African Union Simulation. Only Africa will deliver the best education system for Africa. His message resonates with a growing sense of continental pride and self-reliance. Africa's transformation, he said, must be built on African solutions, not imported models that fail to reflect local realities.
It is never too late to start what is right, you know. Africa is the world's solution, and the best brain that revolution the world today are from Africans. But because we are not profiling ourselves, we tend to be backward. We tend to allow the Western media to control the narrative in Africa. With this kind of educational launch that has been in place for the continental advancement, in line with the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, where Africa is becoming a global powerhouse. We cannot build an Africa that will become a global powerhouse of the future if education is not a critical aspect in it. So the launch of this three-phase of education is a right step in the right direction. We talked about innovation. Technology is not nothing to write home about any longer, because we're talking of AI. And like I said, the people driving this key aspect of education outside Africa are Africans. So now we are walking the talk, identifying our best brain and creating a system where we can elevate our teachers and our students to meet up with the progression of the world as the world is revolving. We are going to use this model of education to meet up with the rest of the world. And I tell you, with the kind of passion and the commitment we're seeing now, we are very committed. You can go back, you see in many sectors now, we're training our teachers, people are putting money, individuals, even organizations, public sectors, private sectors are putting money into education to see that education is key. Like for us at Jet Age, we have been able to set up an agenda and template for education in Africa. We've signed MOU across board where Africans teach Africans the right way, not the way we go to school before to be employed, but now we're teaching our people not to go to school to be employed, but to go to school to be an employer of labor. This is the kind of education that we are bringing to the system. And I tell you, with this kind of education, the Africa that we want is going to be before our eyes.
For decades, education systems in many African countries were inherited from colonial powers, often out of touch with local languages, cultures, and development needs. Reforming those systems is not just about modernizing curricula, it's about reclaiming Africa's narrative. Today, there's new urgency to build education systems that empower the next generation with the skills, creativity, and confidence to compete globally while staying rooted in African values. As the world races ahead into the digital era, technology has become the new currency of progress. Artificial intelligence, data science, robotics, and automation are reshaping industries and economies. Yet many African schools are still struggling to gain even basic internet access. How do we align ourselves with global trends, especially with the coming age of AI? This must be international under the AU, as part of how we move this continent forward, urged Mr. Henry Sinkala, General Secretary of the Basic Education Teachers Union of Zambia.
The African region must do a lot in terms of identifying what kind of education would ensure that the general citizenry in Africa have competences and skills to actually be relevant to the new or to the 21st century. Oftentimes, our curriculums in our continent are curriculums which are out of touch with reality. So we need to come up with a standardized curriculum which I believe should be competence-based, a curriculum that does not support only the white-collar jobs, but a curriculum that promotes skills. After identifying skills gaps in our communities, in our countries, it's high time we came up with a standardized curriculum for all the member states. So that curriculum would need a lot of funding from various governments, and AU would come in to make sure that such a curriculum is implemented in all African countries. You see, as a continent, our challenges are almost the same. We are one family, we are one big family. So one such a problem, for example, is the issue of unemployment. So how do we deal with unemployment? It's through a curriculum. How do we deal with the inequality education? There are a number of things that we need to do as a continent. Number one, we need to motivate the teachers. How are we remunerating the teachers? How are the teachers paid on average in Africa? How are they surviving? Are they 1 month away from poverty, or they have enough? So those are pertinent issues that we need to ask ourselves if we are serious as a continent to develop quality learning and teaching for our learners.
Across sub-Saharan Africa, only 20% of schools currently have internet access. That means millions of students are left disconnected from the digital world that is defining the future of work and innovation. Recognizing this, the African Union Commission has launched the AU Digital Education Strategy, an ambitious initiative designed to digitalize schools, provide teachers training, and ensure learners develop digital literacy as part of a broader Agenda 2063 vision. We are supporting AU member states on digital education, confirmed Dr. Kaysili Olabode, senior education expert at the African Union. The goal is to ensure that both teachers and students are fully digitalized with access to digital learning and digital literacy. Digital transformation, Olabode explained, is not merely about installing computers in classrooms, it's about reimagining education to prepare learners for a tech-driven world, from coding and AI to entrepreneurship and innovation.
Education is a human right. So what we are doing as what we are promoting at the African Union is under the Continental Education Strategy for Africa is what we call quality and inclusive education. So in alignment with the AU Agenda 2063 and the SDG 4. So under the CESA, we have 6 strategic areas, and part of that strategic area is what we call the quality and inclusive education for all. So we are making sure that no child is left behind when we talk about quality education in Africa, including the disadvantaged girls, and we are also including boys. It's not girls' education, we are including boys, and we are channeling this thing through what we call the STEM education. We want to foundational learning and STEM education in Africa. So those are the areas we want to make sure that this, what we call the inclusive and equitable education, is advanced on the continent in alignment with the Agenda 2063 and SDG 4.
While digital tools are vital, they cannot replace the role of teachers. Africa faces a staggering shortfall of 17 million teachers by 2030. Without addressing this crisis, the dream of quality education for all will remain elusive. Experts agree that education has a ripple effect on every sector of society. It drives innovation, strengthens democracy, reduces poverty, and empowers women and youth. For Africa, it is the key that unlocks every door, from health and governance to entrepreneurship and technology. Countries that have invested heavily in education, from Singapore to South Korea, transform themselves from developing economies into global leaders within a generation. Africa, with its vast human potential and youthful population, can do the same. But this will require political will, long-term commitment, and strategic investment. Africa's success depends on our ability to shape our own policies and systems that are contextually relevant, noted one education policy expert. We cannot depend on aid or external prescriptions. We must define our own path.
I believe it starts with the leaders or the state government coming outside the cocoon and believing that we are still behind in terms of executing funds in education. What we only need is to fund education. I believe maybe as the Education International, the mother body where we affiliate as Botswana Teachers Unit, they go with their campaign of Go Public Fund Education.
What we have in Africa before is not that we don't have plans for increment of teacher salary, but we lack the implementation plan. We have the policy plan. So now when there is policy, we need people to drive the policy and people to implement and checkmate the policy. So once there's accountability, you will be rest assured that our teacher will smile home and they will be ready to equip themselves more to pass out relevant information and good teaching skills to our children. And I tell you for the fact that everyone needs more learning. Even the teachers need more learning. So you will create an environment where teachers will have opportunity to go for scholarship to learn more, because he who is not learning is dying. So the fact is that everyone must keep learning, unlearn, relearn, and relearn. So this is what the Africa that we want is becoming. So what we need to do is to invest more on information, getting our foot soldiers in all of this place. Teachers is not just people that go to the boardroom, it's beyond the boardroom. Teachers is everywhere you are, as a mother, as a sister, as a brother, you are teacher automatically. So with the help of AI, we're bringing out a solution now that can send message to 1 million persons in 1 second, and everybody's getting it. That is the impact of AI. And on the 28th, we're launching that here again at the public-private partnership and stakeholders engagement. All of these things, even education, is still part of what we're going to be discussing, because we're bringing investors across Africa together. One of the problems we are having, we are not going to be waiting for our help to come anywhere. Africans want to solve their own problems. We have Africa billionaires, we have Africa government, we have Africa individuals that are doing very well in their fabulous business. So we're bringing all of them together. Let's put our heads together, let's profile our solution, and let's solve our problem ourselves, because only Africa would deliver the best educational system and the best system for Africa to make Africa work. So this is what we're committed to doing, bringing our brothers together, bringing our sisters together. Let's put our resources together and solve our problem. And as I tell you, the community, I am from a community, you are from a community, and with the exposure that we have gotten, it is easy for us to pass information down to our people in the community. And if you do, I do, we do, Africa
its change.
How do we align ourselves with the global trends, especially the coming in of the artificial intelligence? How do we optimize artificial intelligence? How do we embrace it? It's through forums such as this one. There must be an intent by AU that the way we want to move this continent in terms of education, in terms of embracing the AI and many other digital platforms to help our learners, it should be well explained, it should be well espoused in our Vision 2060, for example, and many other tools which support the quality education, or else we would be here on our own offering education which is very irrelevant to our learners. And when they go outside the continent, they become even irrelevant. But we want to develop a cadre of learners, a cadre of citizens who would compete favorably with other students from other continents by aligning our curriculum with the global trends, by embracing AI and other innovations which are coming on board. For example, the issue of chalk, where teachers are teaching on blackboards, when our friends have moved miles away with smart boards, computers given to the children, computers given to the learners, and so many things, the teacher-learner pupil ratio within reasonable range, whereas elsewhere you have one teacher against 80 pupils. It is a known fact that individualized learning is highly compromised. Learners do not develop at the same pace. We have different learners who grasp concepts at different points or times. So therefore there is need for reasonable teacher-pupil ratio, construction of more classroom blocks, making education as a right by providing free education to all the citizens, like it is in Zambia. In Zambia today, as we speak, there is free education from ECE up to grade 12, so that no child is left behind. No child is given a right to be educated. If education is highly commercialized, if a learner has to pay in order to be taught by a teacher through school fees or PTA fees or examination fees, it's an hindrance to having a cadre of learners who are going to be educated. Governments must heavily invest in education so that we can have not just education, but quality education. Education which is relevant to the 21st century. Education which is embracive with the new trends globally.
We have what we call the AU digital education, and we have a strategy regarding that. We have the AU digital education strategy, and one of the things we are also promoting under the digital education is we know what COVID-19 cost. So what we are trying to do as under the AU digital education strategy is to also digitalize some of our schools. The African Union Commission, we are supporting AU member states, on digital education under the digital education strategy for Africa. So what we are doing is also to make sure that our teachers, students, they are fully digitalized. They know what we call the digital know-how, digital learning. There are a lot of initiative on EdTech initiative that African Union is also supporting AU member states. We, as policy organ, we are only supporting the AU member state on infrastructure development, on the capacity development of teachers, on digital education, and so on and so forth. So that is what we are doing as African Union to support AU member states to make sure that this 21st century era is on the continent is also digitalized. So that is what we are doing.
By aligning national policies with these frameworks, African leaders can ensure that education not only supports economic growth, but also strengthens social cohesion and innovation. The continent's young population, the youngest in the world, represents both a challenge and an opportunity. With the right education, Africa's youth could drive the global economy, leading in science, technology, arts, and entrepreneurship. Without it, the risk is a generation left behind. The message is unified, urgent, and undeniable. Invest in education now, and Africa will define the future.
The vision of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, will never be realized without education. As at its core, every smart classroom is built, every teacher trained, every child given a chance to learn, brings us closer to a continent that is self-reliant, digital, and globally competitive. According to the African Union and UNESCO, closing Africa's education gap could add hundreds of billions of dollars to the continent's economy each year. But more importantly, it will unlock the brilliance of an entire generation. Education is the heartbeat of Agenda 2063 and the key to building the African we want.
The Africa we want.